Are people still leaving New York in droves? Is Florida really turning into America's favorite retirement community with old dudes wearing banana hammocks? And what state quietly lost more people than Louisiana, California, and Hawaii combined? In this video, we're breaking down how all 50 states' populations have changed since the 2020 census. The winners, the losers, and the ones that flatline like your cousin's crypto portfolio. Using the latest data from the US Census, we're looking at every single state and how much they've gained or lost in the 4 years since the 2020 census. Say 4 because that's what we're looking at. We are not looking at 25 because it's not complete yet. Okay, today we're going to dive into the great post-pandemic reshuffle, state by state. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 51, Alabama. The heart of Dixie quietly grew as more people sought affordable housing, lower taxes, and warmer winters. Nothing flashy, just steady Southern appeal. Now, they'd probably be in the loser column if it wasn't for Huntsville. The other 5 or so big cities really aren't drawing them in, and especially Birmingham isn't. But since the 2020 census, Alabama has gained 2.7% of its population. And yes, 51, because we're adding Washington, D.C. 50, Alaska. Barely budged. Alaska's remote charm remains strong, but isolation, high costs, and long winters still keep mass migrations at bay. The first 2 years of this 4-year stretch, they gained population pretty good, like 1.1% almost both years. Last 2, they've lost a little, which evens them out to gaining 0.9%. 49, Arizona. Arizona keeps luring in retirees and remote workers with its sunshine and tax benefits. Just don't talk about the water supply. They got some water issues, and as more people move in, that's just going to get worse. I think these people have more margaritas than they do drinking water. Arizona gained 6.0% since the 2020 census. 48, Arkansas. Surprise! Arkansas grew. Affordable land, decent jobs, and people avoiding coastal price tags helped bump it up. They also have some problems which you'd think would scare people off, but Americans love a bargain. Arkansas gained 2.6% since 2020. 47, California. One of the biggest losers. High taxes, insane housing prices, and a tech exodus drive more folks out than in. Now this is weird because we all know California has been one of the most moved to states in the nation. And we're talking, this goes back all the way to the 1850s. They've never had a census where they lost population. They've actually only had 8 years that they lost a percentage. But if they lose 1 here, they gain 3 the next year, so it all evens out. And by the end of the census, they've always gained. And in every census, they've gained double digits. Except for 2. The 2020 census, when they only gained 6%, in the 1860 census, right after we found gold here, where they gained 310.4%. Imagine being some old prospector back in the day, haven't seen anyone in 6 years, then they strike gold, and every morning you wake up, you have a new neighbor, not replacing the old one, just another neighbor. Since the 2020 census, California has lost 1.2% of its population. That's about 100,000 or so people. In reality, almost every state should gain population every single year. If you lose 1.something%, it usually means you had something like, Hurricane Katrina, which drove people out of Louisiana. But for California to lose 1.2%, that's a big deal. Doesn't sound like it, but it is. 46, Colorado. Still a magnet for outdoor lovers and remote professionals, but not growing like it was in the 2010s. Blame it on the skyrocketing housing prices, skyrocketing cost of living, and a growing homeless population in places like Denver. But Colorado still grew by 3.2% since 2020. 45, Connecticut. Slow but positive. Some New Yorkers traded in high-rise headaches for colonial charm and lower crime rates. And this helped Connecticut grow by 1.9%. 44, Delaware. Tiny state, big growth. Delaware pulled in retirees and DC escapees with its tax-friendly policies and coastal access. Delaware is actually a beautiful state. I think it's one of the most overlooked states we have. Unless you're trying to run a multi-billion-dollar corporation, then you love it there. Since 2020, Delaware has grown 6.3%. 43, the District of Columbia. Despite people predicting a DC exodus during COVID, it bounced back and added a little population thanks to a stable job market. Jobs bring people in, even if it's got some pretty high crime. Washington, D.C. gained 1.8%. 42, Florida. One of the nation's fastest growing states. Sun, beaches, no income tax, and plenty of opinions. Florida is booming, like it or not. I guess the only thing they're really losing is teachers at this point. I think that's slowed down. 2 years ago, teachers were just flooding out of there, along with medical professionals. But since 2020, Florida's gained 8.5%. 41, Georgia. Metro Atlanta continues to sprawl like it's on performance enhancers. Strong economy, cheaper living than many rivals equals growth. Georgia gained 4.4%. 40, Hawaii. Yes, even paradise lost people. High cost, remote location, and job struggles made some pack up their surfboards and leave. Hope they grab some macadamia nuts because they're a lot cheaper over there. Hawaii lost 0.6%. 39, Idaho. Idaho is the national growth champion. Fleeing Californians and remote workers boosted Boise and Company like never before. Idaho grew by 8.8% since 2020. That's crazy. 38, Illinois. Illinois continues to bleed residents like it's in a sport. High property taxes, Chicago crime headlines, and economic stagnation have pushed people to friendlier pastures, mostly in neighboring states and all the way down to Florida. Illinois lost 0.8%. 37, Indiana. Steady Midwest growth, affordable housing, and decent jobs help keep Indiana on the plus side of the ledger. Indiana grew by 2%. 36, Iowa. Farm life is still appealing to a lot of people, but Iowa isn't booming, just slowly chugging along. Adding another casserole expert every single week, it seems like. Iowa gained 1.6%. 35, Kansas. Kansas, like Toto, didn't go far. Growth was barely noticeable, but hey, at least they didn't shrink, right? Like a munchkin. Or the Wicked Witch's feet after they took off the slippers. Remember that? That always creeped me out as a kid. I know people in Kansas hate any kind of reference to Wizard of Oz. It's just plagued their nightmares because every idiot like myself brings it up. But when I was a kid, when her feet crumbled back up after they took off the ruby red slippers, you know, the witch who got the house dropped on her, that freaked me out as a kid. The good news is they're not dropping houses on people in Kansas, so they gained 1.1%. 34, Kentucky. Another quiet grower. Kentucky's low-cost living helped draw in a few more people, but it's far from a migration hotspot. They got some problems that are hard to get past. Poverty, job market sucks, serious opioid and drug problems. If it wasn't for those, I'm sure they'd be growing logs. They're cheap. Kentucky gained 1.8%. 33, Louisiana. Natural disasters, economic struggles, and high poverty rates continue to push residents out of Louisiana. Not a good decade so far. Since the 2020 census, they've lost 1.3% of their population. 32, Maine. Maine's growth was practically flat, and then the last 2 years, it jumped up. Still beautiful, still isolated, and still not for everyone, but they're still gaining. They actually gained 3.1%. When you have only 1.4 million people living in the entire state, that breaks down to, I don't know, somewhere around 45,000 people they gained. Not a lot, but it is growth. 31, Maryland. Close to DC, but no dramatic shift. Suburban life and government jobs kept it on a slow and steady course. I always have to remind people, Maryland is not just Baltimore. Like Delaware, it's under the radar beautiful state. Not a lot of people know how beautiful it is. Maryland gained 1.4%. 30, Massachusetts. Surprisingly minimal growth. High housing costs and high cost of living are finally slowing Boston's draw. Same thing that happened to all of California. When prices were high in California and in Boston and you felt like you were getting something out of it at least, it might have been worth it. Then they got too expensive and everyone goes, that's not worth it. But Massachusetts did grow 1.5%. 29, Michigan. The auto state stalled again. Despite some revitalizations in cities like Detroit, the overall population dipped slightly in the last 2 years. But the first 2 years after the census, 21 and 22, they gained. So that brings them down to only gaining 0.6% since the 2020 census. 28, Minnesota. Decent growth for a chilly state. The Twin Cities are still attractive for many, but not in the winter. I will tell you this, Minnesota, or moving to Minnesota, relocating to Minnesota, have been very popular searches on Google in the last 2 years. So I think they're going to start gaining a lot more than what they've already gained. Since 2020, they gained 1.5%. 27, Mississippi. Still losing people. Chronic poverty, poor infrastructure, and a struggling healthcare system haven't helped. Yeah, we've been over it far too many times before. Mississippi's got a ton of problems. And people always say, I hate Mississippi. No, I don't hate Mississippi. I don't hate any place. I'm talking about statistics. And if you don't want me to talk about the bad statistics in your state, do something to fix it. I watched a video of this one guy from Mississippi. He's got some money now. He retired early. I think he was like 42, but he goes around his home state and teaches computer classes to people that are not computer savvy. And his whole point of the video, and this is about 2-3 years ago, I think, he said a lot of the people here are stuck back in the 1950s. And the state will never grow if that continues to be a thing. But Mississippi did lose population since 2020. They've lost 0.6% of their population. 26, Missouri. Middle of the road in more ways than one. Missouri grew thanks to affordability and its central location. When you start to get to the center part of the country, you find a lot of logistics companies have headquartered there. If you're shipping something or you're a transportation company and you're based in California, it costs considerable more to get things to New York, North Carolina, Florida. But if you're in Missouri or Iowa, someplace like that, you only got half the country to travel through. But Missouri's gaining. They gained 2.8%. 25, Montana. Wide open spaces and low COVID era restrictions made Montana a post-2020 migration winner. Now, it's feeling some of the growth pains. They don't have a lot of people, so this number sounds pretty high. They didn't gain that many, and they got a lot of open spaces, but they still gained. They actually gained 4.9%. 24, Nebraska. A modest climb. Nebraska continues to benefit from a stable economy and a relatively low cost of living. They gained 2.2%. 23, Nevada. Vegas and Reno are still hot, literally and figuratively. Retirees and Californians keep piling in. Living in Nevada used to be a pretty cool thing. California was doing great and the ocean was just 4 or 5 hours away. You can head east and go to Utah and find a girl to marry that didn't like to show her ankles that has, 8 sisters. Now Utah's changing and California's more of a liability now. But Nevada's been growing. They actually gained 5.2%. 22, New Hampshire. Massachusetts refugees and nature lovers helped New Hampshire notch some solid growth without going overboard. New Hampshire gained 2.3%. 21, New Jersey. Just barely above water the first 2 years of this 4-year stretch. But then they started gaining. In 2024, even though it's expensive, congested, and often overshadowed by New York City, which is both a blessing and a curse, New Jersey gained 2.3%. 20, New Mexico. New Mexico grew a good amount, especially when you consider in 2021 they lost almost 2% of their population. 2022, 2023, and 2024 they started gaining again. It's the affordability, and New Mexico is a beautiful state. Got a lot of problems, but it's beautiful and affordable. They gained 2.8%. 19, New York. The Empire State is losing its subjects, whether it's the high taxes, soaring cost of living, or the fact that rent in Manhattan can eat your soul. Nearly 3% of New Yorkers had said, "I'm out," between 20 and 2022. The pandemic exodus hit New York City hard, and the recovery has been a lot slower. During 2023 and 2024, they gained some of those people back, but they're still underwater. They lost 1.7%. 18, North Carolina. Everyone seems to want a piece of North Carolina these days, from retirees to tech workers. It's having a serious movement here. They gained 4.8% of their population. 17, North Dakota. Oil booms kept the economy going, but the cold keeps a lot of folks from moving in. But they still gain, and I think mostly it has to do with the oil booms they've had. Since 2020, North Dakota's gained 2.2%. 16, Ohio. Now this one's a little bit weird, but it's got some discrepancies. The census says they've gained 0.07%, while others say they've lost 0.03%. Basically, it's within the margin of error, so they're kind of even. But they're holding on by a thread. Manufacturing losses and economic transitions continue to weigh Ohio's growth down. So I'm not sure which one to call that one. 15, Oklahoma. Steady gains thanks to low cost and a business-friendly climate. Oklahoma's having a quiet comeback. It's so cheap. I mean, people have been moving out there the last handful of years at a pretty good rate. Since 2020, Oklahoma's gained 3.4% of their population. 14, Oregon. Once a migration hotspot, it's now losing people, most of the time. 2024, they had some gains, but its high prices, political tension has pushed a lot of folks elsewhere. They were down 0.19%, but because of a good year in 2024, they gained 0.8%. 13, Pennsylvania. Somehow they're still shrinking and gaining. Pittsburgh and Philly are solid, but the rural flight is dragging down the whole state. Now, I think that's the best part of Pennsylvania is the rural areas and the small towns. I have no need for Pittsburgh or Philadelphia, but I guess a lot of people do. Pittsburgh is starting to turn into a little bit of a hot spot, so that helped. Pennsylvania gained 0.6%. 12, Rhode Island. 0, nada. It's the Switzerland of state growth, almost completely neutral. Apparently, almost nobody came and nobody left in Rhode Island. They gained 0.1%, which is in the margin of error, so that's kind of neutral. 11, South Carolina. Boomtown state. Beaches, low taxes, and charming towns brought in nearly 5% growth. Charleston's busting at the seams. It's going to be the next hotspot, I think, especially if you got some money. They got some beautiful coastal communities. Bluffton is also doing really good, but South Carolina gained 7% since 2020. 10. South Dakota. Who saw this one coming? South Dakota quietly pulled in thousands looking for more elbow room and fewer regulations. They've had some years where they've lost, but recently they've started to gain. And since 2020, they've gained 4.3%. Number 9. Tennessee. Nashville, Chattanooga, Knoxville are pulling their weight. And no income tax and scenic landscapes, Tennessee is thriving, whether you like it or not. I think I need to go to Dollywood in the next couple of years. They got some pretty solid roller coasters. Tennessee grew by 4.6%. Number 8, Texas. Texas is still winning the relocation game. Jobs, real estate, no state income tax. People can't move here fast enough. Even though it has slowed down a touch over the last 5 years or so, but moving in trend and, being a hotspot has been going on over a decade. Still, they gained 7.4% since 2020. Number 7, Utah. Tech jobs, family-friendly living, and beautiful scenery made Utah a fast riser. Growth is starting to strain the infrastructure, though, and they like to blame it all on California. But in reality, most of the people moving back to Utah are only first-generation Californians, and a lot of their grandparents and parents came from Utah. You're just getting your people back. Quit whining. But Utah grew by 7.1%. Number 6, Vermont. Remote workers helped Vermont grow modestly, but its cold winters and high costs kept the floodgates shut. Vermont gained 0.8%. Number 5, Virginia. Northern Virginia suburbs are still growing thanks to government jobs and tech, but rural Virginia, not so much. And I wonder how long those government jobs are going to keep people in Virginia since we're slashing all the federal workers. Either way, Virginia gained 2.1% since 2020. Number 4, Washington. It's not growing like it used to, but the tech industry is still the anchor of the Puget Sound area. The housing market, it's brutal. If it wasn't, they'd be drawing more people in. Now that's mostly on the western side of the state. The eastern side of the state, people are, moving out there, but nothing compared to the Seattle-Tacoma area. Now I get it. Seattle's not all of Washington, but that's where most of the people are going. And this channel and a lot of these videos are focused on where the people are moving to. It's just math and statistics. But Washington overall, as a state, not just Seattle, gained 3.3%. Number 3, West Virginia. Yeah, it's still shrinking. An aging population, opioid crisis, and lack of economic opportunity are driving people out. Now here's the problem. They've started some of the coal mines working again. Nothing compared to what they had in the 80s and 90s and before that. But they have gained a lot of coal jobs. Here's the problem. Since the 1950s, they've lost almost 250,000 of their 2 million population. One of their biggest problems is the young people aren't sticking around. So as some of these coal mines start kind of picking up the pace, they don't have enough workers. If you want a coal mining job, from what I understand, you can go there right now and find a job, which is good for the state, but they're in a bit of a pickle when it comes to people. Since 2020, West Virginia's lost another 1.3%. Number 2, Wisconsin. Modest pickup. They did okay. Milwaukee and Madison are doing good, but much of the state is just standing still. No gains, no losses. That means they only gained 1.1% since 2020. All right, before we get to number 1, if you have not subscribed to this channel or our other channels, Sweet Life for Briggs or On This Day, which there's links for that down below, we would love it if you did. Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, Wyoming. Low taxes, room to breathe, and remote work opportunities gave Wyoming a slight boost in population without overcrowding. I mean, it's going to take a lot for Wyoming to get overcrowded. It is getting expensive because a lot of rich people are going there, but they still got plenty of open spaces. Since 2020, Wyoming gained 1.9%. All right, here's the bottom line. The U.S. population map is shifting, and fast. Whether it's due to taxes, housing costs, remote work, or just chasing sunshine, Americans are on the move. The question is, which state will they overrun next now that they're done with California? All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, give it a big thumbs up. Everybody have a great day. Be nice to each other.